James Miller didn't expect anything unusual on his morning hike. The autumn air was crisp in the Montana wilderness, and his breath made small clouds as he walked the familiar trail. As a paramedic, he always carried a first aid kit in his backpack, a habit that would soon prove more important than he could have imagined. The first sign that something was wrong came when he heard a sound like thunder, but the sky was clear blue. Then came a whistling noise, followed by the crack of breaking trees. James stopped and looked up just in time to see something metallic flash through the gaps in the forest canopy. "That's not a plane," he muttered to himself, gripping the straps of his backpack tighter. The object, whatever it was, crashed about half a mile ahead of him with a boom that scared birds from their perches. James debated calling it in but looked at his phone. No signal, as usual on this part of the trail. After 12 years as a paramedic, his instincts kicked in. If something had crashed, someone might need help. He jogged toward the crash site, moving as quickly as he safely could through the dense forest. The smell of burnt metal and strange, sweet smoke filled the air. As he got closer, he saw broken trees and deep gouges in the earth, leading to something he could only describe as a teardrop-shaped spacecraft. "Holy shit," he whispered, his heart pounding. The ship was about the size of a small bus, its silver surface scratched and dented. One side had been torn open, revealing the dimly lit interior. Then he heard it, a sound between a groan and a chirp. Something was alive in there. James took a deep breath and did what he always did in emergencies. He focused on the job at hand. "Hello," he called out, approaching slowly with his hands raised. "I'm here to help. I'm a paramedic, a healer." Movement caught his eye. Inside the ship, something shifted in the shadows. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw a figure that made him stop in his tracks. It was humanoid, but definitely not human. The being was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer like mother of pearl. Complex markings covered its face and arms, glowing faintly in the shadows. The alien was pinned under what looked like a control panel, and dark blue liquid, blood, James guessed, was pooling beneath it. A small device near the alien was projecting flickering holographic symbols in red, which James recognized as warning signs in any language. The alien's eyes met his, 3 of them arranged in a triangle, and they widened in what he recognized as fear. It tried to move away but winced in pain. "Easy there," James said softly, using the same gentle tone he used with scared accident victims. "I'm not going to hurt you. I wanted help." He pointed to the red cross on his first aid kit, then to himself, and finally to the alien. The alien made a series of clicking sounds, and then something remarkable happened. A small device on its collar flickered to life, and a mechanical voice spoke in English. "Danger. Critical. Systems failing. Warning. Primitive species detected." James almost laughed at being called primitive. "Primitive or not, I'm the only help you've got right now." He moved closer, noticing how the alien's breathing was becoming more labored. The blue blood was spreading, and he recognized the signs of shock setting in. Some things, it seemed, were universal. As he got closer, he noticed the markings on the alien's clothing were more elaborate than he first thought. This wasn't just any alien. The patterns reminded him of royal regalia he'd seen in museums. "I'm going to help you," he said firmly, already opening his first aid kit. "My name is James. I'm a paramedic, and right now your life is more important than where either of us came from." The alien's translator crackled again. "Identity. Protected. Cannot. Reveal." "That's fine," James said, pulling on his medical gloves. "You don't have to tell me who you are. Just let me help you live through this, and we'll figure out the rest later." As he began his assessment, James had no idea he was about to perform first aid on one of the most important beings in the galaxy. He just knew someone needed help, and that was enough for him. James worked quickly but carefully. Years of experience had taught him that panic never helped anyone. He studied the alien's wounds, noting how the blue blood seemed thicker than human blood. The control panel had fallen across the alien's lower body, and while the anatomy was different, he could tell there was internal bleeding. "I'm going to check your injuries now," he said clearly, hoping the translator would help the alien understand. "Try to stay still." The translator crackled. "Your methods are primitive. My medical eye is damaged." James smiled as he pulled supplies from his kit. Sometimes primitive works just fine. He had dealt with plenty of car crash victims. This wasn't so different, just a different color of blood and a few extra eyes. The first thing he noticed was a deep cut on what seemed to be the alien's arm. Blue blood pulsed from it steadily. James knew that meant an artery was hit, just like with human injuries. He quickly pulled out a clean bandage and pressed it firmly against the wound. "Direct pressure works on every planet, I bet," he muttered. The alien made a surprised chirping sound as the bleeding slowed. The translator spoke again, stronger this time. How did you know to do that?" "Basic first aid," James explained, already reaching for more supplies. "Now about that panel on your legs. We need to get it off carefully. Are you hurt anywhere else?" The alien's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Internal damage detected. But your species cannot possibly." "Let me be the judge of that," James interrupted gently. He looked around the crashed ship and spotted a long piece of metal that would work as a lever. "I'm going to lift this panel. It might hurt, but I need to check for other injuries." Using the metal piece and his own strength, James carefully lifted the panel. The alien's legs were badly bruised. The pearly skin had turned a dark purple, but they weren't crushed. That was good news. As he worked, the alien's translator became clearer. "You show remarkable adaptation to an unexpected situation." James cleaned another wound while he talked. "That's what humans do best. We adapt." He noticed the alien's breathing was becoming more regular. "Can you tell me what hurts the most right now?" There was a pause before the answer came. "Lower thoracic region, what you might call the stomach." James nodded. Internal bleeding was his biggest worry. He reached into his kit and pulled out a cold pack. "This might feel strange, but it will help with the swelling." He cracked the pack to activate it and carefully placed it on the alien's side. The alien's eyes widened. "The pain, it lessens." "How?" "Without technology." "Chemical reaction," James explained. "Simple but effective." He continued his assessment, using everything he'd learned in his years as a paramedic. The alien's vital signs were starting to stabilize. At least he thought they were, based on the alien's more regular breathing and improved color. Then the alien said something that made James freeze. "I am Queen Lysara of the Stellar Confederation. You were not supposed to know this." James kept working as if she hadn't just dropped that bombshell. "Well, Your Majesty, right now you're my patient. That's all that matters." The Queen's translator let out what sounded like a laugh. Most species would be trembling at this revelation. "I'm too busy stopping your bleeding to tremble," James replied, applying another bandage. "Though I admit, this will make an interesting story of the hospital, if anyone believes me." As he worked, James heard a distant sound that made his heart sink. Helicopter rotors. The military would be here soon. He looked at his patient, who was now much more stable but still needed care. "Your Majesty," he said seriously, "we need to move you. More humans are coming, and I don't think they'll be as friendly as me. Can you stand?" Queen Lysara's 3 eyes focused on him intently. "You would help me escape, even knowing my identity." James was already packing up his supplies. "I took an oath to help anyone who needs it. Doesn't matter if they're from Montana or Mars or wherever you're from. Now, my cabin's not far from here. Let's get you somewhere safe before those helicopters arrive." The Queen studied him for a moment before nodding. "The Stellar Confederation has much to learn about humanity, it seems, starting with your basic first aid." The sound of helicopter blades grew louder as James helped Queen Lysara to her feet. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, and surprisingly light despite her size. Her pearly skin glowed faintly in the forest shadows as they moved away from the crash site. "My cabin is about half a mile from here," James said quietly. "Can you walk that far?" The Queen's translator hummed. "I must." She took a step and stumbled slightly. James quickly moved to support her weight. Through the trees, they could see black helicopters circling the area. James led them under thick branches, using the forest cover to hide their movement. His years of hiking these woods were paying off. He knew every hidden path and natural shelter. "We need to call someone I trust," James said as they moved carefully through the underbrush. "My friend Emily is a doctor. She'll know how to help you better than I can." The Queen's 3 eyes blinked rapidly. "You would involve another human." "Emily Brooks is the best doctor in 3 counties," James explained, helping the Queen over a fallen log. "And she can keep a secret. Right now, you need more medical help than I can give you alone." A drone buzzed overhead, and they froze. James pulled them under a large pine tree, its branches hiding them from view. The Queen's breathing was becoming labored again. The walk was taking its toll on her injuries. James pulled out his phone. This part of the trail usually had a weak signal. He just needed 1 bar. There it was. He typed a quick text to Emily. "Medical emergency at my cabin. Come alone. Bring your kit. Trust me." The response came quickly. "On my way." 20 mins. They had to move faster. The military would figure out the crash site was empty soon, and they would start searching the surrounding area. James could hear more helicopters now, and the drone sounds were getting closer. "Your Majesty," he whispered, "I'm going to have to carry you part of the way. Those drones have heat sensors, and we need to move quickly." The Queen started to object, but another wave of pain made her stop. "Very well," she said through the translator. "Your species continues to surprise me." James carefully lifted the Queen in a fireman's carry, trying to be gentle with her injuries. She was lighter than he expected, maybe only 100 pounds despite her height. They moved through the forest as fast as James dared, using the thick trees for cover. Behind them, they could hear voices shouting. The search had begun. "Almost there," James said, his breath coming in short bursts. He could see his cabin through the trees now. It wasn't much, just a small wooden structure he used for weekend getaways. But right now, it was their best hope. Just as they reached the cabin's back door, a drone appeared over the treetops. James quickly got them inside, closing the door quietly. He helped the Queen to his couch and quickly closed all the curtains. "Your medical friend," the Queen said through her translator. "Can she be trusted?" James was already getting fresh bandages from his home first aid kit. "Emily saved my life once when I had a bad climbing accident. She's good people." He stopped as headlights appeared in his driveway. Moving carefully to the window, he peeked out. Relief flooded through him as he recognized Emily's old blue truck. Emily Brooks was in her early 40s, with gray-streaked brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She carried her large medical bag as she walked quickly to the door. James let her in, quickly closing and locking the door behind her. Emily took one look at the alien Queen on the couch and raised an eyebrow. "Well," she said calmly, "when you text for help, you don't mess around, do you, James?" "Thanks for coming," James said. "Meet Queen Blizzara. She needs our help, and we got about 10 minutes before the military finds this place." Emily simply nodded and opened her medical bag. "Then we better get to work, shouldn't we?" She turned to the Queen with a professional smile. "Your Majesty, let's have a look at those injuries." Emily worked quickly as she checked the Queen's injuries. Her steady hands moved with confidence, even though she had never treated an alien before. A small device on the Queen's collar continued to flash red warnings. "Your medical eye seems upset," Emily said as she examined the bandages James had applied. "What's it saying?" The translator crackled. "It insists that treatment without proper stellar-grade equipment is impossible. Yet, I am still alive, thanks to your primitive methods. James watched as military helicopters flew past the cabin windows. Those bandages won't hold much longer. We need something better. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a honey-based wound dressing. This might work. Honey has natural antibacterial properties. Been using it for years on hard-to-heal wounds. The Queen's medical AI made a series of angry beeping sounds. Warning. Warning. Unsterile earth substance detected. Oh, hush, Emily told the AI as she carefully applied the dressing. Honey was treating wounds before your kind even reached the stars. To everyone's surprise, the wound began to heal almost immediately. The Queen's pearly skin started to knit itself together where the honey touched it. Fascinating, the Queen said through her translator. The simple sugar compounds are accelerating my natural healing ability. How did you know this would work? Emily smiled as she prepared more dressings. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Now let's look at those internal injuries. James helped the Queen sit up while Emily listened to her chest with a stethoscope. The Queen's three eyes widened at the simple tool. You can diagnose internal damage with that basic device, she asked. Been doing it for 20 years, Emily replied. She moved the stethoscope to different spots. Your breathing sounds are different from a human's, but I can tell where the problem is. You've got fluid where it shouldn't be. The medical eye flashed more warnings. Critical intervention required. Advanced surgical suite needed. James looked around his cabin kitchen and got an idea. He grabbed a large pot and some purified water. Emily, remember that field medicine course? The one about treating collapsed lungs. Emily's eyes lit up. James, you're brilliant. Your Majesty, we're going to try something very basic, but it should help you breathe better. They worked together, using items from James's kitchen to create a simple pressure system. Emily used her medical knowledge to find the right spot, and James provided the tools they needed. The Queen watched in amazement as they turned ordinary household items into medical equipment. The fluid is draining, the Queen said, sounding surprised. My respiratory function is improving. How is this possible with such basic tools? The medical eye seemed just as confused. Its warnings changed to questions. Analysis required. Simple tools achieving optimal results. Does not compute. Emily cleaned and bandaged the last of the wounds while James kept watch at the windows. The military vehicles were getting closer, sweeping the area in a grid pattern. Your medical system relies too much on technology, Emily explained as she worked. Sometimes you need to understand the basics before you can appreciate the advanced stuff. Every doctor should know how to work without their fancy tools. The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then her translator spoke. My people have forgotten this wisdom. We became so dependent on our advanced technology that we lost touch with the fundamental principles of medicine. James returned from the window. We've got company coming. Military vehicles on the road, about half a mile out. The Queen tried to stand, steadier now than before. My royal guard will be searching for me as well. They will not be gentle with anyone they find. Emily packed up her supplies. Well, Your Majesty, thanks to some good old-fashioned first aid, you're stable enough to move if we need to. Those honey dressings should keep working for a while. The medical AI made one final announcement. Alert. Unknown treatment method successful. Recommend detailed study of human medical practices. First time I've ever gotten a compliment from a computer, Emily said with a smile. Now, let's figure out how to get you safely back to your people before the whole U.S. Army shows up on James's doorstep. While they waited for the military search to pass by, Queen Lysara sat on James's worn couch, looking at the medical books on his coffee table. Her three eyes moved quickly over the pages as Emily changed her bandages. These drawings, the Queen said through her translator, they show how your bodies work. James nodded, picking up one of his old paramedic training manuals. We learned the basics first. How the body works, what can go wrong, and how to fix it. No computers needed. The Queen's translator made a sound like quiet laughter. In our medical schools, students learn to trust machines first. They rarely touch patients with their own hands. Emily cleaned a healing wound on the Queen's arm. The honey dressing had worked better than they'd hoped. "That's the problem right there," she said. "You can't be a good doctor if you're afraid to touch your patients." Through the cabin windows, they could see the searchlights moving away. The military was checking another area. They had some time to talk. "Tell me," the Queen said, "how did your people learn these healing arts?" James sat down in his old armchair. It started with watching nature, animals eating certain plants when they were sick, people trying different herbs and remembering what worked. He smiled. "Lots of trial and error." "And much error, I imagine," the Queen said. "Oh yes," Emily added, putting away her supplies. "But we learned from every mistake, written it all down, passed it on. That's why I still use honey on wounds, because someone thousands of years ago figured out it worked." The Queen touched her bandaged arm gently. "In the Stellar Confederation, we see Earth as a primitive world. Yet you saved my life with." She picked up a jar of honey, bee products and cloth strips. Outside, an owl hooted. James got up to check the windows again. The searchlights were now distant flickers between the trees. "Your Majesty," Emily said, "would you tell us about medicine in space? I've always wondered." The Queen's eyes brightened. "We have machines that can rebuild broken bones in minutes, ships with medical AIs that can perform 1,000 surgeries at once. But," she looked at her healing wounds, "perhaps we have forgotten something important along the way." James returned to his seat. "Like what?" "The touch of a caring hand," the Queen said. "The wisdom of watching and learning." She paused, searching for the right words through her translator. "The human element." Emily nodded. "Machines are great, but they can't replace everything. Sometimes a patient just needs someone to hold their hand and tell them it's going to be okay." "When I return," the Queen said, "I must make changes. Our doctors must learn these basic skills again. The old ways, as you call them." She tried to stand up, steadier now than before. "My people have become too dependent on machines." James helped her sit back down when she wobbled slightly. "Maybe we could learn from each other. Your technology, our basic training. Best of both worlds." The Queen's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. James had learned this was her way of showing agreement. "Yes, a medical exchange program, perhaps, though many in my court will object to learning from, how do you say it, primitive humans." Emily grinned as she packed up her medical kit. "Just remind them how this primitive human doctor helped save their queen with nothing but honey and bandages. And a good dose of common sense," James added. The Queen's translator made the laughing sound again. "Indeed, perhaps being primitive is not such a bad thing. It makes you adaptable, creative." She looked at her nearly healed wounds. "Effective." A sudden bright light swept past the windows. The military search was circling back. "Speaking of adaptable," James said, standing up, "we should probably think about moving you somewhere safer. Your guards must be looking for you too." The Queen nodded. "Yes, and they will be much less friendly than your military. We must plan carefully." "Don't worry," Emily said, helping the Queen to her feet. "If there's one thing humans are good at, it's thinking on our feet. We'll figure something out." The first sign of the Royal Guard's arrival was a deep humming sound that made the cabin windows shake. James peeked through the curtains and saw 3 sleek silver ships hovering over the trees. "Your ride's here," he said to the Queen. "And they look a lot better equipped than our military." The Queen's translator crackled with worry. "My guards are protective. They may shoot first and ask questions later." Emily finished checking the Queen's bandages one last time. "Well, we can't have that. Any way to tell them you're okay?" Before the Queen could answer, a bright blue light filled the cabin. James felt a tingling sensation, and suddenly 6 tall aliens appeared in his living room. They wore shining armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. "Step away from Her Majesty," one guard commanded through a similar translator. All their weapons pointed at James and Emily. The Queen stood up, her voice sharp even through the translator. "Lower your weapons immediately." The guards hesitated. Their leader spoke again. "Your Majesty, these primitives." "These primitives," the Queen interrupted, "saved my life while you were searching in the wrong sector." She moved to stand between her guards and the humans. "They are under my protection." James kept his hands where the guards could see them. "Your Majesty still needs medical care. The bandages will need changing, and—" "Silence," the guard leader shouted. "We have a full medical suite on our ship. We will handle Her Majesty's care from here." Emily stepped forward, ignoring the weapons. "Really? And do you know how to handle the honey dressings we used, or how they interact with her natural healing process?" The guards looked at each other in confusion. Their leader checked a device on his wrist. "Our scans show unexpected healing patterns. What have you done to Her Majesty?" "They have done what you could not," the Queen said. "They adapted. They healed. They used their primitive knowledge in ways our advanced technology never considered." Just then, the cabin's walls lit up with red spotlights. Through the windows, they could see military vehicles surrounding the building. A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "This is the United States Army. We have the building surrounded. Come out with your hands up." "Well," James said calmly, "this just got more complicated." The guard leader raised his weapon again. "We can blast our way out." "No," both James and the Queen said at the same time. Emily had an idea. "Your Majesty, your people still need help with those bandages, right? And the military needs someone to explain what's happening. Maybe we can solve both problems at once." The Queen's three eyes brightened. "Yes, Captain." She turned to her guard leader. "Lower your weapons. These humans are now my official medical consultants." "But, Your Majesty," the captain protested. "They're about to save us from an interplanetary incident," the Queen finished. She turned to James and Emily. "Would you be willing to come with us, to explain to both your military and my medical team?" James looked at Emily, who nodded. "Of course," he said, "but let's do this carefully. No blasting, no shooting." The Queen turned to her guards. "You will escort us all to the ship. The humans come willingly as our honored guests." Emily quickly grabbed her medical bag. "Don't forget the honey. Your doctors will need to learn how to use it." James opened his front door slowly, hands raised. "Good evening, officers," he called out to the military. "I'm James Miller, local paramedic. I've got quite a story for you." The Queen's translator conveyed amusement. "Perhaps this is another human skill we should study. Diplomacy through medical care." As they all walked out together, humans, guards, and the alien Queen, James couldn't help but smile. "You know," he said, "I think this might be the start of something interesting." "Indeed," the Queen agreed, "though I suspect my court will be quite shocked when I tell them I was healed with honey and bandages by primitive humans." "Just wait until they hear about chicken soup," Emily added with a grin. The next few hours were a blur of activity. James and Emily found themselves in a meeting room at the local military base, surrounded by generals, government officials, and alien diplomats. The Queen sat at the head of the table, her royal guards standing nervously behind her. "Let me get this straight," General Thompson said, rubbing his forehead. "You're saying a paramedic and a country doctor saved your life with honey?" The Queen's translator conveyed her amusement. "Indeed, and they did so while your forces and my guards were running in circles through the forest." James sat quietly, still wearing his hiking clothes covered in blue alien blood. Emily had her medical bag on her lap, ready to show anyone who asked about their makeshift treatments. A tall alien in flowing robes stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the High Council is deeply concerned. To trust your care to primitive." "Choose your next words carefully," the Queen interrupted. "These primitives succeeded where our advanced medical technology failed." Emily opened her bag and pulled out the honey jar. Would anyone like to see how it works? I brought detailed notes on the treatment process. The alien doctors in the room moved closer, their scientific curiosity overcoming their prejudice. One of them scanned the honey with a floating device. Fascinating, the alien doctor said. The natural enzymatic properties, combined with the osmotic effect. We never considered such a simple solution. General Thompson turned to James. Miller, you realize this changes everything. First contact with an alien civilization, and it's because you decided to help an injured crash victim. James shrugged. That's what paramedics do, sir. We help people who need it. Doesn't matter where they're from. The Queen stood up, making everyone in the room fall silent. I have made my decision. Earth will be offered full diplomatic recognition by the Stellar Confederation, and our first treaty will involve medical knowledge exchange. The alien diplomats stirred uncomfortably. One of them spoke up. Your Majesty, to learn from such a young species is exactly what we need. The Queen finished. Look at these readings. She gestured to her medical eye, which displayed her healing progress. Their simple techniques achieved what our best technology could not. Perhaps we have become too dependent on our machines. Emily raised her hand politely. If I might suggest, why not start small? A pilot program. A few of your doctors learning our basic techniques, a few of our doctors learning your advanced ones. The Queen's three eyes brightened. Yes, and I know just where to begin. She turned to James and Emily. Would you both be willing to serve as Earth's first medical ambassadors to the Stellar Confederation? James looked at Emily, who nodded enthusiastically. We'd be honored, Your Majesty, though I'll need someone to cover my paramedic shifts. The room filled with laughter, even the alien diplomats joining in. General Thompson stood up. I think we can arrange that, Miller. This is bigger than paramedic shifts now. The Queen's translator hummed with satisfaction. Then it's settled. We will establish the first human-alien medical exchange program. Both sides will learn from each other. One of the alien doctors was still studying the honey jar. To think, all our advanced research, and we never thought to look at such basic natural remedies. That's humans for you, Emily said with a smile. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Queen raised her hand for attention. Let this be a lesson to all. True advancement comes not from forgetting our past, but from building upon it. These humans, with their primitive yet effective methods, have taught us that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. James looked around the room. At the mix of human and alien faces, all united by the simple goal of healing others. You know what he said, when I packed my first aid kit this morning. I didn't expect to start an interplanetary medical program. The Queen's translator conveyed her laughter, and I didn't expect to be grateful for B products and bandages. Yet here we are. General Thompson shook his head in amazement. Well, I suppose we better start drafting those treaties. And Miller. Yes, sir. Make sure your first aid kit is always stocked. Something tells me you're going to need it. 1 year later, James stood in front of a large window on the Stellar Confederation's main medical station. Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness of space below. Behind him, a class of alien medical students waited eagerly for their lesson to begin. Today, he said, holding up a familiar first aid kit, we're going to learn about treating wounds without technology. His translator converted his words for the alien students. Emily walked into the classroom, carrying her old medical bag. She had just finished teaching another group about the importance of hands-on patient care. The alien's three eyes followed her movements with respect. Hard to believe it's been a year, she said to James. Remember when you were just a paramedic hiking in Montana? James smiled. And you were just a country doctor. Now look at us, teaching alien doctors how to use bandages. The door opened again, and Queen Lissara entered the room. All the students stood up quickly. She had become a regular visitor to their classes, always keen to see how the medical exchange program was growing. Please sit, the Queen said through her translator. I am here to learn, just like you. She took a seat among the students, her three eyes bright with interest. James opened his first aid kit. "Your Majesty, would you like to help demonstrate proper bandaging technique? After all, you were my first alien patient." The Queen walked to the front of the room. "Indeed, and thanks to these primitive but effective methods, I lived to make sure others would learn them too." In the past year, the program had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Alien doctors now carried basic first aid kits alongside their advanced technology. Human doctors learned to use stellar-grade equipment while keeping their traditional skills sharp. "Watch carefully," Emily told the class as James demonstrated bandaging on the Queen's arm. "Notice how he checks the tightness. Technology can fail, but good basic training never does." The students took notes eagerly. Many of them had been skeptical at first, but the results spoke for themselves. Patients across the Confederation were healing better than ever, thanks to the combination of advanced technology and basic human medical knowledge. A young alien doctor raised her hand. "But Instructor James, what if we have a medical eye available?" "Good question," James said. "Your Majesty, would you like to tell them about your experience?" The Queen nodded. "My medical eye told me I would die without advanced treatment. These humans saved me with honey and bandages. Now I make sure every royal ship carries both medical AIs and basic supplies." Emily opened her medical bag. "Speaking of honey, let's practice those dressings we talked about last week. Remember, sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The students gathered around, their earlier prejudice about primitive methods long forgotten. They had seen too many successful treatments to doubt anymore. Through another window, they could see a new ship arriving at the station. It was the first of its kind, a joint human-alien hospital ship. It carried the best of both worlds: advanced alien healing technology and basic human medical wisdom. "Your simple first aid kit started all this," the Queen said to James. "One act of kindness between species, and look what grew from it." James watched his students practice their bandaging. Sometimes the simplest things make the biggest difference. Emily checked the students' work, correcting their technique gently. And sometimes being primitive just means being practical. The Queen's translator hummed with satisfaction. "My people have learned much from yours. Not just about medicine, but about caring, about adapting, about using what you have to help others." James packed up his demonstration supplies. "And we've learned from you too. Your technology has saved countless lives back on Earth." "A fair exchange," the Queen said. "Though I still find it amusing that bee products played such an important role in galactic history." As the class continued, James looked out at Earth again. 1 year ago, he was just a paramedic who believed in being prepared. Now he was helping shape the future of medicine across the stars. "Ready for the afternoon class?" Emily asked, holding up a fresh jar of honey. "Always," James replied. "After all, you never know when someone might need a bandage, human, alien, or even a queen."